cost benefit part of it. You know, anything that involves, as Commissioner Clayson was talking about, that particular topic, new money has a higher velocity and expansion rate than old money that just kind of is around. So anytime we can take natural resources and use those in like coal development, and you end up with the multiplier effects of 4 and 5 instead of something that's just around, you know, 1 to 1, 1 to 1, it makes a huge difference. And so it comes back to family sustaining jobs that has been mentioned, and along with that comes primary jobs. The secondary jobs that are out there for tourism and the rest of it all ride on these primary jobs as such. And simple things like benefits. How many of the tourism jobs have benefits? Not much. So those, it's a key resource. We can utilize it wisely, and we ought to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I just would like to agree that the sustainable jobs. Here in Panguitch, Barney Trucking has committed to hire every qualified driver that applies to drive the coal trucks, which they have done. The rest of the drivers are coming from surrounding areas, so they are trying to keep it in the area as much as possible to help our local economies.
Now, a lot of the history of the West, especially of natural resources-based communities, is boom and bust. You know, we've seen that over time. And does that worry you at all? That you'll base an economy on tourism?
Can I go first? Is that okay? We'd like to have some of that boom.
I think
We never had.
you could also say that the same trends taking place nationally. You know, things come and go. You know, it's not a matter of exploitation to the detriment of it. It's more or less of how do you capture that in a logical fashion. So look at your eastern seaboard and go back to your histories and see if there isn't boom and bust there as well.
Anyone else want to answer that? And we can
Just the diversification, that's where we're trying to be.
I think just to reiterate that this business can only grow so fast, and it requires such an intensive level of capital that there's no business that's going to be created for short cycles. And so we don't feel that this is going to be problematic, and certainly far less boom and bust than our tourism industry is from season to season, relying on foreign exchange rates and the predictability of those types of things. So I can say with great confidence that this industry will be one of the lowest risk boom and bust industries that we currently depend on for our existence.
You know, if I can follow that, let's talk about the boom and bust. Let's talk about the timber industry. We had more sustainable inventory of board feet of wood when we were harvesting. And it was proven over and over and over that they could have went into perpetuity on the Kaibab National Forest. It was actually good for that forest to harvest. There would have never been a bust. Now you have a bunch of dead trees and whatever, you know, that's probably like a movie set of the Planet of the Apes as well. Some of those places down on the Kaibab used to be a beautiful, vibrant forest. So that's what you need to think about when you bring that question up. Let's talk a little bit about the timber industry. That would be going on into perpetuity. There would be no bust, and the forest would look better. So
You'll forgive me, but boom and bust is represented beautifully on Wall Street.
All right, I have two more questions, and then we'll let you go. So we've been talking to a number of folks who thought that this first draft environmental impact statement from the BLM had a lot of shortcomings. Park Service had a number of things it should address. Fish and Wildlife Service thought it needed to have a better look at sage grouse. And even BLM says, you know, they've heard these criticisms and they're going to come out with a better document. Did you all find things that you thought could have been improved upon in that draft? And maybe a different way to say that is, what would you like to see in the next draft of the EAS that comes out?
I think initially their economic benefits part of it was short, you know. So I think in looking at this, and this is what Matt Brown's worked on, we've commented extensively about the need to make sure the social economic part of that is dealt with. As far as getting the process right, we welcome that.
We, you know, you said the word shark again when you said sage grouse. That'll be the spotted owl of the 21st century. Okay, the sage grouse, we have our own study on the sage grouse. We've proven that the leks down by the mine will not be affected. We have evidence. We submitted it into the EIS, to the BLM. We're very comfortable with what their analogy is on sage grouse. The problem is nobody in this room, nobody that has anything to do with this study is going to determine the outcome of what happens with sage grouse. It's the United States Fish and Wildlife Service that's going to determine that. If it's listed as an endangered species, the West will shut down, literally. No grazing, no mining, no harvesting, not anything. The sage grouse is part of the radical environmental movement that's going on that wants to improve this area, that is wrecking the environment and wrecking our economies and wrecking this area. Okay, so like I say, when you say sage grouse, it's like saying shark in the water. It's a very, very detrimental thing that's happening to the West. And let me just say one more thing about sage grouse, because I know I'm talking to an audience back east. Please come out and talk to us on the ground about sage grouse. Let's not shut down the West, because believe me, those folks that pay into the Sierra Club and pay into your organization, they want to come and see this area someday. Guess what? If it gets shut down, you're not going to come and see it. You're going to stand and look at an area about 50 miles away and say, boy, I wish I could drive something or ride something to go look at that area. That's the reality of on the ground.
Do you want to
Yeah, a couple of things in the draft. I think the BLM has done a good document. It's the NEPA process. A draft is a draft, and it's their best look at things at the time. They spent years analyzing things, and they then put it out to the public, to the cooperating agencies, the members of different organizations to comment on, and that is the process, and it should find elements that need additional comment and additional research on, and I think that's moving forward. We have provided pages of comments and other things to consider as well, and I would like to mention on the sage grouse in particular, this actually improves sage grouse habitat. In fact, the leks that are down in that area right now, we had a field trip on to document, and there they were out on the Alton coal site on their reclamated areas, and some of the areas that had been flattened off, because they do need a variety of habitat, and the habitat that they're missing are the grasslands. And these habitats are going to be restored better than they were through having the mine. So I think science will prove out that there is in fact a effect on the habitat, and it is absolutely beneficial. Now, the sage grouse in general has habitat in 7 western states, and almost 50% of the land mass is in those 7 western states. So it's not like there isn't lots and lots of habitat out there. And this is an animal that we're still issuing hunting permits for every year. And so it would seem to me to be confusing that something that we're doing that shows benefit to the sage grouse for an animal that apparently has a population that's great enough that we can hunt them every year, and that has habitat across 50% of 7 western states, would even be a concern at all regarding this coal mine.
Did you want to add on that, Mayor, about what you'd like to see in the next draft of the EIS? Okay. Last question for you. What's your vision of Panguitch or Garfield or King County over the next 10 years? If it were up to you, how would it look?
I'll start it. We're not going to have anything. We're not going to have any input on that. Why? Because we cannot control the public land policies. So you're asking a question that we cannot answer. I'll give you an example of the sage grouse that we just mentioned. We are trying to educate the public on what is going on with that issue. At the end of the day, if the United States Fish and Wildlife Service lists that as an endangered species, there's nothing we can do. There's absolutely nothing we can do. We're doing everything in our power to have a vision and try to promote this county, and I'm speaking about Garfield and Panguitch. Panguitch has done a wonderful job promoting itself. Wonderful job. The problem is in Garfield County as a whole, you have 96.5% of this county that's public land, 93% of that's federal, which means on the federal land they're so restricting on the regulations that we're not going to have the say. And the problem is the pendulum has shifted so far to the left, they're going to have the say. They're going to be the ones to have to answer for what's happened in the past, like the forest fires and all of those issues that we have that's ruined our land, not helped our land. But on another brighter side of that, the tourism side, we'd love to have you come see Garfield County. Come spend time in the Grand Staircase. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. The problem you're going to have is getting access to it. It's 1.9 million acre tract of land, and getting access is very difficult. But come and see Garfield County. Come to our events here in Panguitch. We're going to survive here. We know how to survive. Believe me, we're not going away. And remember one thing when you talk about our vision, let's talk about our custom, culture, and heritage as locals. Okay, that's part of the NEPA process that is ignored. Both of my grandparents used to graze cattle and sheep on the Grand Staircase National Monument. It's being threatened because of a grazing EIS right now. So part of my custom, culture, and heritage is possibly going to be taken away. Let's start respecting that as a country.
Thank goodness we're not going to see airports, freeways, and railroads through here. And I think the landscape itself will be relatively untouched. That's the very nature of it since it's under federal management, and I've got confidence in that process. We just need to figure out where our human communities are at as to how to sustain them and how to get value back and to have diversity at the same time. That's very eminently doable. I've been around this country for nearly 50 years now. Wow. But I can tell you incrementally there's been changes, but has the character of the place changed? No, I don't expect it to change.
I would like to see Panguitch, and I'm sure all the citizens as well, would have a vision of Panguitch being, in a lot of ways, much as it is today. Friendly, just our own little piece of heaven. People like to come here. Tourism is huge, as well as mining, so much the same as it is today.
Commissioner Clayton, want to take us out?
Yes, I'm excited about the vision for Kane County in the future. I think we've got a great future, and I think America is ripe for the educational opportunities that will lead us to doing some showcase examples of responsible leadership in terms of energy development, in terms of resource uses in our public lands, and in terms of being able to do things that produce goods and services that strengthen our economy. And so we're excited about that. We're excited about the opportunity. We feel like that these times are great to be alive and great to be able to be a player in that arena. So Kane County will always be a beautiful place to visit. We hope that everybody that comes here feels a little bit uplifted and better for the experience, and we welcome you.
There's some real estate opportunities here.
Did you want to add anything?
Actually, I did have one follow-up on that last question. In terms of sort of the vision of the future, and a lot of the discussion has been sort of surrounding about the coal mine as it currently is, not necessarily the development of an expansion of a mine with more trucks, more traffic on the roads. So as that occurs more, if the process gets approved, are you concerned then, especially in Panguitch, of the sort of perception being that the trucks are going to be you know, make it not worth coming here? Is that something that, you know, that you guys think about, and maybe even studied in your economic impact?
No, we don't have concerns about an increase in the trucks coming through. Just
I'd-
as Commissioner
I'd
Paul
like to-
said,
I'm sorry.
that's,
And in terms of like, you know, Panguitch as a tourism destination, you know, you don't think that would affect, you know, tourism coming here?
I think the pictures that you see of the traffic backed up behind the coal trucks is not gonna be a reality. I really don't feel like that will ever happen. It won't affect people wanting to come. The people that I've had make comments to me on the coal trucks have said that those truck drivers are the courteous drivers that are out there on the road. Now, you could run into a driver that's driving a Swift truck or something else that is not gonna be half as courteous to someone in a car as a coal truck will be. We have had no complaints. We had an incident here several months ago where an older lady pulled out in front of the coal truck. She was in the wrong. She ran a stop sign. That coal truck driver did everything he could do, and he did, to miss her. He went, and I had comments, I can't believe he didn't lay that truck on its side to miss her. She was at fault. I think we all have these people in our communities as they get older, don't obey the laws quite like they should. They've just always gone above and beyond to be courteous to the citizens and the people that are here as visitors in Panguitch.
I'll just follow it up, and then I'll let Kane County be the closers, like back to baseball, like in baseball, they can be the closers. No, we're not worried about that, it only increases the traffic 3%. No, we are not worried about that. I'll say it one more time, put that coal in a Swift truck. You won't notice it. Nobody said anything when the Swift trucks were coming through town. That's probably the biggest traffic generator. Take that highway away from Panguitch, you take 70% of the revenue out of this town. Take 70% of the revenue out of Panguitch and see how many businesses you have left. Probably none. Maybe one or two. See, we've gone downhill. We've regressed as far as the business community. What we're trying to do is go forward as a business community. So no, we're not concerned about that. What I'm concerned with is the misinformation and all of this one-sided view, looking through a one-sided lens on the truck traffic. Let's be real about it. You cannot take that traffic off or take the traffic out of this town to take the trucks out of this town without killing Panguitch. So this is a good place to live. It really is. It's wonderful. If we can survive the winters in Panguitch, we can survive anything on this planet. And if you don't believe me, ask some of the natives of Panguitch. They told me when I moved here, I think it was about 29, 30 years ago, that I was going to winter kill. But I didn't, because I actually grew up in Bryce Canyon National Park. I lived there 18 years. So I understand both sides. I'm not being one-sided. I understand both sides. So let's get the word out on the facts and be accurate about what we're reporting on when we talk about these issues.
Can I make one comment on that of the traffic? Having grown up here, and I have driven up and back and forth this highway hundreds of times, and I'll be honest, I don't ever remember frustration about being behind trucks anywhere close to frustration about being behind RVs. Seriously, and I'm not kidding around about that. I mean, and I'm not saying that we don't want them there, but the courtesy part, the awareness of that they're on the road, that there are other cars around them, as compared to the person who is in the RV, who is, enjoying the scenery and going a lot slower and backing up traffic and so forth. And so I just don't see that. I just last week made a trip to Salt Lake, happened to get behind a coal truck just as it topped off at Todd's, And I thought, oh, maybe I'm gonna have to go a little slower. Well, by the time he was at the bottom of the hill, he was doing 65 the speed limit. I followed him all the way to Peg, which he stayed right at the speed limit the whole way. And unless I wanted to break the speed limit, he was not a problem to me, which I did want to break the speed limit, so I passed him, and so.
It's on record, Matt.
And I know, but I'm known for that. Anyway, and I made a recent trip here a couple of years ago to Italy, and I went to the Cinque Terre, which is it's the Italian Riviera. And they still have all their trucks running up and down there, and it's basically a one-lane road with 2 lanes of traffic. And you would have to pull off, and it's still, when you would get to the 5 cities of the Cinque Terre, those places were packed with tourists. Everybody was going through the same experience to deal with what they had to do to get there, and we enjoyed it. And it was actually part of the adventure, actually, it was doing that. And I'm not suggesting that becomes part of the adventure here, but I'm just saying, I just don't really think it has any effect on tourism at all.
Okay, thanks for allowing us to address this issue. I'd like to just present 3 items. One item is the pictures that are being used on the Sierra Club are not even a road that is used on the Alton Coal trucking route. So the picture of backed up traffic there, those are not the coal trucks, and that is not even a road that's on the route of the coal. So again, misinformation. Secondly, I actually sit on a Utah Department of Transportation committee. We're meeting this week again to go over projects. This mine actually provides the royalties and the funding to upgrade the highway. We currently have problems with our highway that we've identified with issues associated with tour buses and current traffic on the roads. There are 8 areas that the road is going to be improved in between the Alton Coal site and Cedar City. And all of those areas will provide passing lanes and will provide better turnouts and better accesses on and off the highway and even the freeway that will benefit all of the traffic. And so here again, we have a problem now that is actually going to be solved by having the funds to be able to address those. And so in the end, this is going to be a much better route to travel than pre-coal mine without having those royalty funds to put on the highways. And the third item is we're dealing with truckers who will be making repeat runs. They know the roads well. They're local residents. They have a good safety track record. They have responsibilities to be courteous. They know that they're going to be reported if there's any issues. They know the road conditions. They know the weather conditions. They're used to the climate of the area. And I would suggest that that's going to be a much safer truck driver than some of the truck drivers that we're rescuing out of the monument every other week because they followed their GPS off onto Cottonwood Road. And so the impacts for these trucking, the 3% or so that they will represent, and yet the funding that comes back to improve these roads is more than offsetting for that. So
I know you guys got to run. Just one more question. Something that people had mentioned, and I know we've talked for an hour, but some of the other people we've talked in town had a vision of Panguitch as being a model, Moab or Park City. Is that an attainable model? Is that can that happen here? Could you have a town that's talk about a tourism-based town, that's outdoors and it has all the natural beauty.
yeah.
Is that a fair model for that Kane, Garfield, counties and Panguitch could be?
Well, Park City is actually a beautiful thing that we quote as an example, and there are several towns in Colorado that would show where mining history actually sparks a great interest in tourism. And so there's super solid evidence again that our desires to grow in these areas certainly will be enhanced. In fact, we could probably have tours out to the coal mine and increase tourism in that way. And so we would like to see our areas become more of a destination with some more, I guess, wealth associated with it like Park City has. And we will continue to work to try to enhance and make a vibrant community to achieve those things. But the reality of something like Park City is nestled within a 50-mile radius of huge urban populations that creates their economy. And so I don't think we'll ever have that kind of a benefit like Park City does, but we certainly have the scenery and all the other things to compete with why somebody would want to come there.
And I just wanted to end and let you all, say anything else that you wanted to say.
Well, I'd like to address the question.
Sure, and then maybe loop in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start packing up. I think I've said more than I should have.
I'd like to address that question. We have a wonderful travel council here in Garfield County. I attend as many meetings as I can. The last meeting I attended, we want to find ways to promote this county as far as tourism. When you talk about Moab, for example, you're talking about tourism. They're doing a wonderful job. The reality is on the ground, look at the climate in Moab. It's a much better climate. It's right by Arches, right next to Arches. The surrounding area of Moab is scenic. So for us to compare on the ground, Panguitch, if you specifically mentioned Panguitch, to Moab is not a fair comparison at all. You can go to the eastern side of the county and you can get some communities that are scenic, similar, but therein lies the question. We're doing everything in our power to promote these communities. Why hasn't Escalante become another Moab? It has the Grand Staircase. The Grand Staircase was supposed to be the save-all tourist attractor. You've got a community that's dying. The businesses are closing. It literally, the population's going down. Escalante City's in trouble. So, yeah, we'd like to find ways, but the reality on the ground, we exhaust every effort to try to promote this county, to try to help this county. The reality of what we have is what's on the ground here in the county and what you see. So, go ahead.
I guess I'd like to make a plea that for folks that are living elsewhere and they're looking inward, that there be some respect for our values and for our customs and be a little more tolerant to the extent that we have the same desires in life as anybody else. And looking in and asking us to be compared to other places, maybe that's disrespectful.
I don't have any additional comments. I think the commissioners voiced it all.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I know we took a lot of your time, but we really appreciate you.
Can we see the unedited tape as well?
Sure.
You know, I think if we get it to Matt Brown or something like that.
Yeah.
That was part of the ground rules when we
Yeah.
baseball.
In terms
Former
of
baseball player, I can appreciate that. Not a very good one, but a formal one.
I noticed on your website, and of course, I have to admit, I didn't know who you are or what you are. But you all work on some quite a few issues, do you not?
Yeah, the Center for American Progress is
Yeah.
issues across the board, and then I specifically work on public lands issues, but Andrew gets his background to work on lots of different. So Andrew's our Shackle trained video producer.
I'm a
So.
subscriber.
Yeah? Okay, great. Okay.
Well, in terms of timing, we are going to come out with this at the end of June. We're thinking around then, but we will certainly be in contact with you before that happens. So you don't see it in the next couple months. Don't worry. We'll be sure to let you know.